How's it going, everyone? Today we're going to learn how to set up a drum kit. I got my trusty Buck Dodgers string band, trucker hat, and first things first, we need a carpet. All right, so you need a good carpet. This one I like, it's 4 feet by 6 feet. It's got rubber on the bottom. It's cheap. You can spill beer on it and throw it out and buy another one. Okay, why a carpet? 1, it protects the floor. 2, it stops your drums from sliding all over the place. And 3, it can really help with setup. It can help you set up faster, and then it can help you set up the same way every time. Okay, there you go, we got a carpet. So now what you need a stool, right? Something to sit on. Get your stool, put it in the middle of the carpet. This carpet's only 4 feet deep, so you gotta have enough room for your kick drum in front of your pedals. So I've usually put the one leg on the carpet, okay? And that'll hold it in place too. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about seat height. You can sit really low, okay? You can sit really high. Just make sure that it doesn't hurt your back. So now I'm sitting on my chair, I'm feeling comfortable. I just put my feet down. That's where your pedals go, right? You might have to go a little wider if you want to have a bunch of toms, but if you only have one tom, you can go narrower, okay? This would be your hi-hat foot. Okay, so this is your basic pedal setup. 1 kick drum pedal, 1 hi-hat pedal. You could have a whole bunch more pedals. Thomas Lang has a bunch of pedals on each foot. If you have a double kick pedal, you can put that pedal on the inside or on the outside of your hi-hat pedal. Let's get a double kick pedal in here. So you have 2 beaters on the kick drum, and my hi-hat's pretty wide. I don't like to have this leg underneath the snare and try and do double kick, right? I think the advantage of playing 2 separate kick drums and kick pedals is it feels better. You can feel the air, boom, 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 the air going out of each drum, right? The advantages of a double kick pedal are you don't have to carry another kick drum around and you can get a more compact setup. Maybe we should talk about one more pedal option. If you have another double kick pedal, you see this sometimes, okay? Guys like Stanton Moore will have a remote kick drum outside their rack toms. So I can have a 20-inch kick drum here, maybe a 24 or 26 or an 18 or whatever over there. That's a pretty extreme pedal setup, but you do see it these days. You'd see guys with even more pedals than this. Bring in the kick drum. This can be a 20-inch kick drum, 22-inch kick drum, 24-inch kick drum. There's a double kick setup. That actually kind of looks awesome. Okay, let's talk about the snare a little bit. Snare heights and snare angles is basically personal preference. You just want to make sure that it works in conjunction with your seat height, that you're not hitting your legs or your thighs with the back of your sticks or your hands. All right, so here's our bottom line setup. This is kick, snare, hat. You should definitely be able to get your point across and probably play a gig with just these 3 pieces. Let's talk about tom-toms. First we'll talk about mounting options, then we'll talk about some common setups, all right? 3 different ways to mount tom-tom. You can put it in a snare stand, you can put it on a cymbal stand, or you can have it mounted to your kick drum. All right, so this is 1 up, 1 down, okay? 1 rack tom, 1 floor tom. This is a very light touring setup or a punk rock setup. I find you can get most of what you need done with this type of stuff. It's not uncommon to see this as a studio setup. You don't need to have boom, 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 when you can have boom, 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 boom. You know what I mean? Or boom, 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 boom. Okay, there's 1 up, 1 down with your rack tom in a snare stand. Make sure it's not too tight. If you crank that snare stand up too much, it'll choke the drum out. This is kind of a nice setup. You can see everything's solid. There's no cymbal stands added yet, so when you put your cymbals, you can put them wherever you want, okay? 2 rack toms, 1 floor tom. This is actually, I like this because I have access to 2 toms, 2 rack toms, and they're not pushed over here. So my ride cymbal can actually still be pretty close to me right here. Okay, so there you have 2 tom-toms on separate stands. So you end up with a couple of different places to put cymbals here. You end up having to put your ride cymbal, here a little further away. A little more space to put a cowbell or a splash cymbal in here. Or you can use bigger tom-toms that fill that space up. Or you can put a 3rd tom There you go, 2 up, 1 down. Okay, that's your basic 5-piece setup. So this was my main touring setup for quite a while. 1 rack tom and 2 floor toms. You can see there's a nice big space in here for a ride cymbal. You can have cowbells or extra splashes. I usually had a side snare with a cowbell on it here. So if you want to go bigger than this, 2 up, 2 down is a pretty common setup too. Okay, there's your 2 up, 2 down setup. That's a whole lot of toms. That's a lot of toms to tour with, that's for sure. And as an engineer in the studio, that's a lot of toms to mic up too, right? The more toms, the more mics you have, the more phasing goes on. So with this many toms, you gotta have a really good roadie or a really good engineer. You could hire me, woo! All right, so this is the setup I use in the studio a lot these days. I like the way that the toms set up with the panning, all right? I have my overhead sort of split on this axis. You can see the snare and the kicker in the center, and then that rack tom's kind of in the center. Hi-hat's over there, rides are out to the side. Let's talk about cymbals. Hi-hat cymbals. Should I take these off? We'll do it. Okay, so here you go. Cymbals, all right? 2 hi-hat cymbals. The bottom hi-hat cymbal goes on, just sits there, top hi-hat, right? You got the clutch. You got to put the clutch on, opposite side of this thing. And people will spin their hi-hat around like this. Let me show you something. If you can loosen this thing right off. See? All of a sudden your hi-hat doesn't work very well. Nothing's going on. This is that top piece, okay? So you got this middle piece and you got the top piece that screws into it like that. And this tube goes in here. So a lot of stands will have these memory locks so you know how high everything is. You can also use a felt pen and mark the heights of all your stands. Typically, you start with 1 crash and 1 ride, right? You can hit crash with both hands, you can hit ride with both hands, you can hit the hi-hat with both hands. I do like to add to this usually another crash and usually some sort of trash stack. Let me show you what that looks like. Now I got 2 crashes and a trash stack. I can get a little busier. I like to have a splash there or there, right? Sometimes I'll take this crash and put it over here and put a splash in the middle, sort of like that, right? Many different options. So one of the main additions to the kit that I like to use is a left side snare drum. This serves double as a timbali sound when you take the snares off and have a little less damping on it, or with a little damping and the snares on, you have a high-pitched breakbeat snare that you can use for hip-hop and house and things like that. Okay, so this is a pretty full-on setup, right? I got double kick, I got a lot of options with the left side snare, 2 crash cymbals. You can hit all this stuff really easily, right? When I'm tracking, I'll take away drums that I'm not using and bring in a few extra sounds if I feel like I need them, or add stuff onto the snare to make it sound cooler. All right, so here's a quick setup tip for you. You've got your cheap carpet that you're always going to take with you on the road, right? Your drums are set up on it. You got everything set up perfectly how you like it. Take a felt pen and outline your pedals on the carpet, and outline your stands on the carpet. That way when you get to the gig, you put your carpet where you want your drums, you put your pedals on, kick drum and hi-hat in, tom-toms up, cymbals on, ready to go, right? Soundman could come in and start micing. You know everything's where it needs to be. You can go relax. Right on. Okay, thanks everyone. We'll see you at the next lesson.